fast-paced more bees. How awesome was that? Was it great? Awesome. Okay, so I'm here to introduce Stephanie Betters. She has been in real estate since 2007. 2014, she felt like she really got into it. But then in 2020, she started doing a CRM and data with AI and made a huge shift in her business, made things grow faster, and she is ready to talk to you about it, teach you about it, and I just want to bring her up here and let her get going.
Thank you. Yay, thank you. All right. Hey, everybody. Well, while everyone's coming in, sitting down, you projected. That was good. All right. While everyone's getting settled down, show of hands, how many people are using AI in their business right now? Excellent. Who's afraid of using AI in their business? Okay, good. We're going to talk to both of you guys today. All right, so while we, right before we, let's see if we get this. Okay, so quick disclaimer and a little bit of a pressure relief valve for some of you for this presentation is most businesses die of indigestion, not starvation. Okay, so what does that mean? That means there is a lot of ways to make money in real estate. We don't have to do them all, right? There is an incredible amount of opportunity that you have by focusing on one thing that you're really, really good at. Talked a lot about this at lunch a little bit, but really the power is doing more with what you have, not necessarily spinning up new things. And what I really love about AI is, similarly to real estate, the benefit to it is leverage. We can use AI to leverage what we're already doing and to get better at what we're already doing, instead of using it as like, oh, some new thing I've got to learn how to do. All right? So level setting here a little bit. As you all know, there's kind of two big categories that real estate is falling into right now. We have traditional real estate agents and brokers, and then we have investment companies. What's been really interesting to see over the last, even though I've been in real estate for a decade or more now, what I've seen in the last 3-4 years is really this rise of cash offer programs and the blending of real estate agents and traditional models with cash offer off-market programs. And the reason for that is investors are taking up a gigantic space in the market right now. This is US data, like normalized over the entire country. Approximately 1 in 3 single-family homes are bought by an investor. Some markets are even crazier than that. Like Miami, 75% of single-family homes are bought by investors. And this is really important for us in this room right now because it's super competitive, right? We've got to figure out a way to have an edge on the market when we have this number of transactions happening. And what's really interesting about that is these aren't just REITs. In fact, 75% of the investors that make up this proportion are small businesses. These are people who have 10 or less employees. It's really interesting. There's this huge movement, right? So that means that each individual company with small team members, small counts, need to be better. So here we are in the middle of this disruption. We have AI. We're hearing about it everywhere. All these new SaaS companies spinning up, doing different things in AI, new tools to learn and to think about and to leverage. And then we have everyday activities that we've got to get done. And real estate is really challenging because a lot of what we do traditionally is pen and paper. So we've had this push to how do we adapt this stuff and make our businesses more powerful. So AI now has become a lot more mainstream to try to get into this everyday activity. AI and machine learning has been around for decades, but it really just now is we're seeing it actually hit the streets in small businesses. So how do we be innovative in real estate? What's the cornerstone? What do we do? How do we start with this? Okay. To be successful innovating in real estate means you really have to be good at 2 things, and that's it. You have to be more efficient, and you have to accurately predict. If we could do those 2 things, we would all be billionaires. We wouldn't even be here. We'd be on some yacht somewhere, right? But it's really hard to be efficient with small teams when everything counts, and it's really hard to predict accurately all the time. If we could all tell exactly what a house is going to sell for and to who, we'd just be printing money, right? So how do we use innovation to help us do those 2 things and leverage AI? So if you haven't gotten this thus far, this is a really great quote by Paul Bradley. But real estate isn't the only industry. Every single industry is getting disrupted by AI. Every single one. And he says in the next decade, we won't even recognize the society that we're in right now. because things are changing that fast. It's faster than the steel industry when we had railroads. It's exponentially faster, so it's really, really important that we know how to start leveraging it. And I'm excited to see that you all are here willing to. So, all right, things are getting disrupted. Things are really serious. Sounds like I've got to innovate or I'm going to die, right? I've got to, the industry is getting disrupted. How do I stay relevant? Well, I love this picture because it gives us a lot of good news, all right? It's not as difficult as we think it's going to be, all right? So let's just look at the caveman times to now, right? Something very, very innovative that happened, obviously, in the human history is figuring out how to control fire, right? And what we see over the course of history is sequential problem solving. And that's how we need to frame and look at AI and innovation now for real estate. So we started off by having a little fire pit there, right, to stay warm and to have light. And then we had a problem. Every time we walked away from the fire pit, it was dark and cold. So what did somebody do? Someone probably picked up one of those pieces of wood and started, carrying a torch around. But then that piece of wood, it burned real fast. So okay, now let's get some wax. That burns slower. Okay, well now that thing blew out in the middle of the wind, so we had to put some glass around it, and we went from there, right? We didn't jump from campfire to electricity overnight and LED bulbs and Christmas lights that sing to music and stuff like that, right? It was sequential problem solving, and I think this is a really important concept for us all to tackle. All right, who are the innovators? Who are the people that are innovating the best? Anyone know who this guy is? Any Seinfeld fans in here? I can quote like every episode. Okay. Innovative people are people who are annoyed. They observe stuff and they're annoyed by stuff, right? The lazy people invent things, right? Same thing with angry people. All right. Jerry Seinfeld is such a great example because he's annoyed and he's very funny because of it, but he's really good at articulating a problem, right? The way he says it just hits you. It's hysterical, right? He's really, really good at identifying something like that and talking about it. And that's the cornerstone of really, really good innovators. They're very observant and they can articulate a problem really well. Just like we saw with the fire, right? One thing at a time. That's my problem, I'm gonna go after that. And you can take a really big initiative, like I'm gonna go to the moon, I'm gonna go to Mars, and you start articulating problems along the way, and that's where innovation starts. So, top 4 characteristics of innovation, really industry-wide, but also in real estate, are these 4 things. These are gonna be our use cases on where we're gonna choose to insert AI. 1, innovation happens from combining 2 different things to make something new. 2, figure out a way to process large amounts of information faster and better. 3 is automate. What can we fix that we do over and over and over again? And number 4 is how do we cut the fat of stuff that's not working or that is working really well and do more of those things, right? These are the 4 use cases. We're gonna go through each one. Let's start with the first one. All right, I'm gonna tell you a little story of my favorite innovator of all time, and kind of an unsung hero, so I like to sing the praises whenever I can. This is a story about Dr. Walt Lillehei, all right, inventing heart surgery. This guy is known as the father of heart surgery. How many people in here are 30 or 40 years old? Okay, awesome. This guy invented heart surgery when your parents were born. So if your parents were born in the 50s, he potentially could have influenced their life. Basically, what was happening in the 50s, shortly after World War II, babies were dying because of the hole in the heart, okay? So he's trying to figure out a way, how do we operate on the inside of a heart while still keeping the patient alive? Really difficult to do, right? You bleed out when you cut the heart open. So he had to come up with a couple different ways to try to solve this very specific problem. So he came up with something really cool called cross-circulation, where he's like, okay, well, when the babies are in the utero, they're getting their blood oxygenated by the umbilical cord. What if we do like an umbilical cord after they're born? So he did this. He did a surgery called cross-circulation. He hooked up a tube from mom or dad over to baby and was able to do heart surgery for about 10 minutes. Now, he did 30 or so of these surgeries, but the problem with that is it was the only surgery ever known to man that had a 200% chance of mortality. You have 2 patients that can die, right? It's very, very dangerous. Okay, so that didn't work. So we got to figure out another way to give oxygenated blood to a baby. So he's running a lab with one of his mechanic friends, and he finds that, okay, I can oxygenate blood with bubbles. We can put blood under pressure, spin it around, makes a bunch of bubbles, and the oxygen goes in the blood. Who's ever seen a horror movie where they inject bubbles or air into the patient? Doesn't do very well, right? So this is where things get really cool. So he's in Minnesota in the 1950s. Minnesota's full of farmers. So he's literally out in the community talking with his mechanic friend, and they bump into their friend who's a dairy farmer. And they're talking about bubbles. And so the mechanic are going back and forth. What do we do with these bubbles? We have to figure out this one thing. And the dairy farmer says, well, you dumbass, use cheesecloth. We do this all the time. So the dairy farmer had the same exact problem with bubbles in the milk tubing, and they used cheesecloth to fix it. So huge eureka moment. They instituted cheesecloth into this machine, cost $15, and this became the industry standard, the gold standard for heart surgery for decades. Cost $15 in the 1950s. Unbelievable, right? And so why was that successful? Why was that so innovative? He sequentially solved problems and got it down to this very specific thing. He's not asking the dairy farmer, how do I do heart surgery? He's asking the dairy farmer, what do we do with bubbles and tubes? So now he was able to actually get help that he needed, right? Super cool. He went on to train the guys who did heart transplants, made pacemakers, heart valves. I mean, he literally was the father of heart surgery. Super cool. That's the book if you want to read it. It's really nerdy and easy to read. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit more in context with business, all right? We're gonna combine a couple different things, and you guys get to shout out and participate with me a little bit. What do we get when we combine buying stuff online with taxis and mobile GPS? Uber, that's right. All we did was combine different things, right? Uber didn't go invent the iPhone and how to access it all. All right, how about this one? Talk radio, internet streaming music. Podcast, that's right, great. All right, let's do a real estate specific one. Non-owner occupied list with somebody who's owned that non-owner occupied property for 15 years.
Seller financing.
Oh, no.
Investment.
Prop stream.
Tired landlord, who said that? Genius, that's exactly right. That's all that was. Someone just said, hey, I got this new data point, right? I got this fancy new thing, this new list that you can buy. All it was combining those two things together, but super innovative, right? Made a lot of sense to stack that stuff. All right, let's do one more. CRM data, right? All of your information that you have in your central CRM, whether it's an actual software or a spreadsheet, we're gonna combine that with publicly available data. Right, these are all the lists that you can possibly pull, the prop streams of the world, the batches of the world, everything, right? What do we get when we combine those two things together? Now we can actually predict who's going to sell, right? We're going all in on this CRM and combination data here. This is what you have in your CRM is truly proprietary to you. Right? Only you know and have that documentation, the phone calls that you've had with those different homeowners, what they said, the true condition of the property. You can't just pull a list and get all that from a conversation. What you have makes your company valuable. If anyone ever thinks about, hey, how do I exit my real estate business? How do I make a company that's worth anything? It's by leveraging what's truly proprietary to you, and that's your CRM data. So how can we combine those two things together? All right? And that comes down to this question, right? This is what we all want to know. I'm sure you've heard countless times, the hardest part of real estate is finding the deal. Once you find the deal, you'll find a partner, you'll find the financing, you'll find the contract, you'll find everything else. But the hardest thing is actually finding the homeowner who will sell you the house, to do the cool ADU thing, the Thatcher's, everything. How do we find that house? And if we can talk to only people who are willing to sell their house to me that I want to buy, I've got a really great business model, right? I got no fluff. All I want to do is talk to more people who will sell me their house. But unfortunately, sometimes it looks like this. Anybody know what this is?
California?
Oh, someone's close. This is a gold mine. This is what a gold mine looks like. It's a freaking mess, right? But out of this comes these extremely valuable substances. Right? But this is what the gold mine looks like. And a lot of times this is what I feel like our businesses look like, right? I know there's gold in here, we just gotta get better at it, right? So the question is, how do we leverage this super valuable asset that we have, which is all this data that we're getting from running our businesses, our CRM, our conversations, our phones, everything. How do we leverage that more? And that leads us to number 2. We've got to be able to process it better and faster. So how can we leverage AI to help us do that? All right, this is the big problem and kind of why this is why it's a gold mine that looks like a mess. All right, who in here is marketing? Okay, awesome. So the problem and the blessing and the curse with marketing is only about 35% of the people who call you off of your mail piece or fill out a form on your website actually end up being qualified, right? Like they want to sell soon in the house in a place that you buy, et cetera, right? So 35%, 50% if you're lucky at best. We're not talking referrals. Referrals are probably the only exception to this. But somewhere between 35% and 50% of those marketing channels are qualified right this second. Great, they get appointments, you get out and you make offers, et cetera. And the rest of them aren't unqualified necessarily. Maybe a little small percentage of them, like 15% are straight up unqualified. Don't call me anymore, I'm gonna kill your family, stop sending me mail pieces, all this stuff, right? We'll get them out. That leaves about half of your system is just follow-up, right? There's just people in there getting bigger and bigger and bigger that you need to follow up with. And the longer you're in business, the bigger a problem this is. And on the reverse of that, the longer you're in business, the more data you have and the more valuable it is. So we've got to find a way to reconcile this follow-up problem with the value of your company. And the reason why it's such a big problem is nobody likes to do the follow-up, okay? It takes forever. And what happens is I've got a big old task of things to do, but the phone rings. I'm going to pick up that phone. We all tell our lead managers, 5 minutes, you got to call that lead back. 5 minutes is all you have. You got to hurry up and get a hold of people. So what happens when we get a brand new lead? We drop everything, we freak out, there's a new lead, everyone get it, right? It's so exciting, the marketing's working. You drop everything else out of your, and you should, by the way, and the rest of the stuff that you have on your list doesn't get done, so it gets kind of neglected. So what most people do, they pull up their little list, it's super long, it's 100 plus leads you gotta follow up with, whatever it is, depending on how long you've been in business, and you go and you're like, all right, Joe Smith, I've gotta call Joe Smith. You call him once, he doesn't pick up, you check the box, you move on to the next one. And maybe it's a month before you call that person again, right? And it's just on, and you try one time and that's it. But the problem is, Joe Smith, who may have been in your system for a year, had a problem when he initially opted in, right? Do you think he's going to get more motivated over time or less motivated over time? More. Do you think he's going to solve the problems automatically? These homeowners are in a mess. Right? Their financial literacy is poor, their personal choices are a lot of times really poor. That's why they need help from an investor and kind of a specialized problem solving. They're coming to us because they have a very specific type of problem and we're really good at solving it. Good at being creative, dealing with houses that are messes, etc. So over time, they just get more motivated. But the problem is we have no way of really processing when their motivation changes and when they're more likely to pick up their phone. So we need to start treating our CRM like it's alive. So I put a little bit of an eye chart up on here on purpose because this is kind of what it feels like when you're looking at your database, right? You're like, oh gosh, there's a lot of names. And I protected these poor souls from anybody here who wants to call my leads. But I took a quick screenshot here. And I'm trying to decide what the heck I'm going to do and how to prioritize my day, right? When I look at this, you can see over here there's new event on some of them. There's little fire icons, okay? And then, some of them are actually on the market, actively on the market. Now, I'm not listing them if they're on this list, right? So they're not mine. So who am I going to call first? Someone with a new event, right? And I'm going to click on that and say, what was the new event? Oh, they're now in pre-foreclosure. How many times am I going to call them? A lot, right? I'm not going to call them one time and then hang up, right? Because something really important just happened. And I didn't know until I connected all my proprietary information with publicly available data. Now I know how to properly follow up with that homeowner. I'm going to call you 100 times. I'm going to be your crazy ex-girlfriend. And you're going to pick up that phone, right? Because something important happened and I can help you, right? And the same thing is true with probate or expired listings. If you're an agent, maybe you want the expired listing events and that's important to you. All these different motivation factors are leading me to make better decisions in my business. There's my little arrow. All right, so what's happening all the time is everybody in your database, all these people that have ever come across your desk are changing. So lots of different motivation factors are happening every single moment, and you need to have a database that can constantly tell you that. So what we've put together on the software side is an update every hour. So if you have a guy in your system or a girl in your system that's going through pre-foreclosure, you're going to get notified immediately. And if you don't have it, you're going to just get it automatically. I can't tell you how annoyed I am with spreadsheets. You want my little Seinfeld moment? I can't stand spreadsheets. I have 1,000 of them in different categories of enrichment. Some people have relatives, some have phone numbers, some don't. Some I probably have had duplicates of for years, right? Spreadsheets are horrific. And I'm on a mission to make everything API-ified, right? No more spreadsheets via email. But this is the reason why, is because it's almost impossible to get any gold out of a spreadsheet when there's 30,000 people on it. All right. So what I want to do is I want to follow up based on intent. So how do I monitor homeowner intent, and how do I follow up with them just like that? All right, so I took a couple of screenshots out of my CRM so you guys can see my numbers here. But I've been in business now well over a decade. There are about 300,000 people in my system, from prospect lists I've purchased or people who've opted in the past, and it's super overwhelming. So this does is essentially say, hey, these 35 people are the people you need to call today. They're the most likely to sell, and they're the most likely for you to buy, because they're in areas that you buy houses just like this. Just do that. Those are some examples of what the enrichment looks like. Seems a lot easier to do business like that, right? All right, number 3, using innovation to automate redundant tasks. There's a lot of really low-hanging fruit here too. Leveraging drip sequences, text messages, emails. Don't sleep on email. Email works really, really well. People are kind of programmed now to not pick up their phone when you call. So email is actually really valuable, so don't sleep on that. Direct mail sequences, just kind of setting it and forgetting it and putting you in the position that you're responding to inbound communication instead of always being on the offense. Put some stuff into place. Nothing beats the personal phone call, but at least all this stuff is background dripping while you're working. So that's automation via cadences and drip sequences. The other part is conversational AI. Has anyone tried any of these bots yet, voice or text? All right, cool. These are some really great recommendations I have for you. I'll go kind of through all of them. Smartphones, really cool, direct integrated phone system that does AI transcripts and keywords and summaries. They're also releasing an AI bot that will answer the phone for you if you miss it. So instead of going to voicemail, it can go and pick up the phone and get some information. And it says, hey, I'm a digital assistant. I'm here to help you. Sorry, no one can come to the phone, but maybe you can tell me a little bit about the house. Better than a voicemail, right? RiverX and WooSender, these guys build bots to automatically respond via text message. So a lot of people use these for follow-up, and it responds like a person, and you can teach it over time. Thoughtly is a really cool voice bot. There's a lot of them out there. I think it's one of my personal favorites. You can build cool if-then statements there, and it sounds pretty good. I would say the biggest thing on the voice side is there's a gap. So when they respond and then the bot starts talking, there's a little bit of an unnatural space. You know how sometimes when you're talking with somebody and they say, yes? Sometimes agents pause. So it's not getting there. It's not there yet, but it's getting there, and they're actually really, really good. So look into some of this stuff. Before I move on, objection-proof selling is also really cool. This is live role-play coaching. So there's a phone number you can call, and your team can call and run through different role-play scenarios, and it gives you feedback on how well you did. This is really great for training. Lots of really cool conversational AI things that are directly applicable to us, and these are all really, really inexpensive and easy to adapt. All right, this is another big recommendation I have for you guys, is to start developing your own wiki, all right, your own large language model. You can do it in literally 2 clicks. So you can open up ChatGPT. On the top right, you can click Explore GPTs and then Create, okay? So imagine this like a Google Drive. You can dump all of your SOPs in there. You can dump in your underwriting, your spreadsheets, YouTube videos that you like of folks here or other influencers that are talking about how to do sales processes, whatever. You can dump all this into it, and then you can start asking it questions and it will answer questions for you for your HR stuff, or it'll write processes for you, and it is a gold mine that you can develop over time. And it just gets better and better. So it costs like $20 a month for a pro account. ChatGPT is a great one. There's Claude has another one, Grok. I don't care. Pick one and start putting all of your stuff in there that you have in Google Drive and build your company Wikipedia. Now you can let your employees ask it stuff. Hey, how do I do this? How do I set an appointment? What happens next in my transaction, closing process, and it'll tell them. It's really amazing, and it learns a lot over time. It's getting really, really good. So you can do that with Zapier, and you can, plug things back and forth. It's really easy. Okay, cut the fat. Next one. How do we get better at the stuff that works, and how do we stop doing the stuff that doesn't work? Has anyone here read Good to Great? Oh, yes. This is my favorite business book. This is the best one. I love Jim Collins so much. Okay, so the people who raise your hands, you're going to know this is kind of the infamous story, is Kimberly-Clark, the paper company, kind of like old school paper company like Dunder Mifflin. That was their bread and butter, right? They just sold printer paper, kind of, right? And then they had this small but burgeoning part of their business that did consumer paper goods, like Kleenex and Dixie cups and stuff like that. And they kind of came to this crossroads where the CEO and the COO were looking at what was working, and they're like, you know what? Dang, we make way more money on the consumer paper goods stuff. And then they had the other side. Well, we've been doing paper for 100 years, and it was literally like 100 years they've been doing it. And they had these mills, and they had all this staff and all this equipment to try to do this, to try to print paper and do it well and for low margin, when they had this other stuff growing really fast, and they made the really difficult call to sell the mills. And it became like the defining factor and why they're still around today and why you even know what a Dixie cup is. They made a really, really hard decision to do that, but they were able to do it because they were able to analyze what was working and what wasn't working, and what was declining. And it's really hard to be honest with yourself like that when you're kind of emotionally involved and you've been doing something like a certain way for a really long time, like real estate, like pen and paper, like how the traditional real estate process has been for years, right? It's being disruptive now, and there's kind of this natural tendency to be like, but this is what's happened, right? But if you look at some stuff and analyze it well, it makes it a lot easier. So if you can be super non-objective and look, well, we just made triple the money over here, it's easier to make that decision to say, let's just do more of that, right? But sometimes it's easier to make a decision what to stop doing first. So let's kind of go down that path. If we had to look at our whole database or what we were doing, from a marketing standpoint, I would say really low-hanging fruit would be to stop marketing to people who don't have a house to sell. Right? Like you bought a list, maybe you bought it this quarter and they sold it already. But here we are spending lots of money sending the mail, or spending time calling them or texting them or whatever, right? It would be so much better if we could just stop that piece. Forget the rest for a second. Let's just stop mailing and calling people who have already sold. So how can we do that? What that takes is monitoring sales. That's it. While this is public data, everybody who sells their house in the United States is publicly available. Even if you're in a non-disclosure state, the fact that a sale took place is available to you. So if you can connect that to your marketing sources, to your CRM, you'll stop marketing to people who sold their house. You'll save thousands and tens of thousands of dollars just with that one thing. But you can also use that same information, kind of like this combined thing you can do with the same data set is you can actually get a little bit more insight into your marketing channels. So right now, we judge our marketing channel's success based on how many deals we do from it, right? And I've got some humble pie up here I'll share with you, because I've used Need to Sell My House Fast for years. Anyone else use that lead source? Okay, all right, well maybe you get a little free nugget here then for everyone else. So I've been talking a lot of smack about Need to Sell My House Fast. This is a pay-per-lead source that you can buy. It's really inexpensive. You can get a lead from like $75 to a couple $100 depending on your market. And I was like, oh, we've been doing this for years, and these leads suck. They're not qualified anymore. They're not selling their house. We're not doing any deals from that lead source. But I see here that this, and I took this. This is my own dirty laundry. Just last week, four leads that I bought sold to somebody else. So who sucks? Right? What happened when I got that lead, right? So this helps me judge marketing channels a little bit better because they did sell their house. They just didn't sell it to me. So how do we get better? How can I get that homeowner down the finish line if somebody else did? Okay? And just out of curiosity, what percentage do you guys think of the people who opt in actually sell their house each week, each month? I heard a 10%? Yeah, really close. It's 5 to 10%. Every week and every month, 5% of your database is getting outdated. And you're missing out on cool data points like this. Some more humble pie. Okay, they sold their house. It wasn't to you. Someone else bought it. How far off were you on that offer? This is me, and this is one of my sales guys. His name is Lee. He's awesome. We love Lee, okay? He lost 6 or 8 deals here. All right, okay, whoops. All right, let's look what happened. So 3 of them, we never even made an offer. That sucks. They sold. We didn't even get a chance. Maybe we didn't even get a chance to go on the appointment. Who knows? I can click in and find out, but right now, I don't know. Okay, how about this one? Oopsie. This last one here, we were off by $8,000. That stinks. We were super close, right? Like, what happened in that process? We could have definitely paid $8,000 more. It's almost negligible. It's so low, right? And a couple of these other ones, we were off by a ton, right? Like, we're off by $100,000 several times. What do we do about that? How do we still get those deals? Hint, he just spoke from stage. Sub 2. Maybe there's a different method for us to handle those leads, right? They clearly sold, and they sold for higher. Maybe there was an opportunity to sub 2 those deals. Another thing that I learned from this in my own business was we were overestimating ARV after repair value as it compared to current condition value. A couple of these sold to investors, but a couple of these sold to owner occupants with no renovation. But we offered low because we thought we would have to renovate it. But an owner occupant just moved into it. So maybe the current condition value was actually higher than we thought. So this actually triggered a whole another set of meetings and thought process and process changes for us in my company in Charlotte. And what we found was, you know what? Actually, houses that needed some level of cosmetic repair actually did better on the market than a fully renovated house because it was more affordable. So that maybe we don't need to renovate the houses as much as we thought we did. Maybe this market is increasing a little bit for MLS listings. So really great information that I can take immediately and try to make more deals. Kind of live feedback, which is cool. And for the ones that had investors that bought properties, and I don't know, Tommy, you might be on this list. You've been on my list. Tommy's in my market. I think oh, there you are. Okay, good. You stole some deals from me, sir. I see you on my list sometimes, right? And so this is really important for me because if someone is outbidding me, and maybe by a large margin, 50K to 100K, now I know who you are. We're going to be friends. You're going to be in my buyer's list. And I'm just going to do some math now. I know you're going to pay 50K more than I'm going to pay. So maybe I'm going to offer 40K more. And then I'll just make $10,000 in that transaction and wholesale it to you. Right? So I can take that information. I can immediately do more deals just with that. Again, it's trying to remove some of that friction between predicting well and then being able to lock up a deal. So if I have this information, I can predict a lot better. And I can click on this and be like, all right, Tommy, how many houses did you buy? What did you buy? Does this meet your criteria? I'm going to feed you exactly that. I'm going to find it right in my database. So super helpful. And this is all just coming from one data point of sold property. That's it. Publicly available, pull the list. Depending on if you're in a non-disclosure state, you may have some delays with getting who the buyer was, but you can immediately do this in your business right now and get a lot of really valuable information. All right. And as we're wrapping up, we started with Jerry, now we're going to end with George here. Happy Ignorant Disruption is a really amazing way to start using AI and being really innovative. You don't have to know how to do everything, and sometimes that is to your best benefit of just trying to do some of these things, right? Just starting some of this process. This is a cool quote from Sarah Blakely, who's one of my favorite innovators too, is sometimes the big secret between disruption is having no idea how it's supposed to be done. You have to embrace not knowing. And so this should feel like a little bit of a relief for all of you here that are a little bit scared of AI. You don't have to know how to do everything. You just got to start doing it and be okay with being a learner and being a beginner. We've all had enough humility in this business, right? It's more of that. It's more humility in trying stuff. And if you get nothing out of the presentation other than this is what I hope you walk away from. As business owners, as business operators, one of the most valuable skill sets that you can have is learning how to articulate a problem. All of a sudden, if you can articulate what you need, the answers will come to you, and people can actually help you. You can come to events like this and be like, hey, I need someone that can fund a deal just like this, right? Or I need money for X, or I need a marketing channel that can do this, right? Then people can help you instead of like, how do I grow my business? That's a hard question to answer, and it's different. Like, I need more information, right? But if we can get really good at articulating a problem, then we can do a lot better in business. And that can look like, Jerry Seinfeld. You can tell a lot of great jokes at lunch, or you can be like Sam Altman, who famously said this, quote, right? And build something really transformative and really, really innovative. And it just starts with that one problem and sequentially solving it from there. So quick summary, these are the 5 things. Combine to create. How can you find tools that help you do that and be innovative there? How can you process gold better? How can you automate? How can you do more of the obvious stuff or do less of the obvious stuff? And be a beginner over and over. That's what I got for you guys. We have a little bit of time for